welcome to the Nothing to Prove, Only to Share podcast. This is Emmy Woods.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. So happy to have you.
Thank you.
Can you give us a little introduction? Tell us who you are, how you got into music, what you're up to.
Yeah, well, my name's Emmy Woods, and I grew up in a little town, Burlington, North Dakota, and I just always took to music.
Cool.
I used to sing a lot to myself, and then eventually in the choir. And I actually started out playing the trumpet. That's how
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, that's how I learned how to read music, and that was kind of my entry into, more formal music. And then in the 8th grade, I started teaching myself how to play guitar with my mom's she had this old classical that she'd saved her babysitting money up for in high school. Yeah. So all of her kids learned how to play guitar on that guitar. So it ended up being a really special guitar. And then I just started writing songs, and I never really stopped.
Cool. When did you start writing?
The first song I wrote, I was 13. It was about being a vegetarian.
No way.
Yeah.
Sing us a line.
The chorus is not beef, only vegetables and soy.
And soy. I love that. Oh my God. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a fun one. It still comes out every once in a while around family campfires.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. So you're from North Dakota. When did you end up in Minnesota, or when did you come to Minnesota?
Yeah, I moved here about 10 years ago. A lot of my siblings live here. I've got nieces and nephews in the area, and so I mostly moved here to be close to them. Yeah.
Cool. I love that. Are you happy in the Twin Cities?
Oh, I love it here. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. Is this where you came first, just right to St. Paul?
No, I moved around quite a bit. I moved out to Washington State to go to college.
Okay.
And I was out there for about 3 years. Then I ended up transferring to a different college in Wisconsin.
Okay.
So I was on the south shore of Lake Superior for a while.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Oh, it was amazing. I love that lake. I wrote a song about her, actually.
Yeah.
Ballad of Lake Superior.
Yes, I heard you when you were at Astor talk about that, and I thought maybe it was Duluth, but it was on the other side.
Yeah. Although I did live in Duluth for a minute as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. I lived in Superior, so across the bridge. I went to college. My first year of college was at EWS.
Awesome.
So very familiar with the Duluth area, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, it's a neat little pocket. Great music scene up there.
Yeah. I didn't even know until I had left, but yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I kind of want to just move up there.
Yeah?
Because it's lovely. But the Minneapolis-St. Paul music scene's delightful as well.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. Can you talk a little bit about your creative process, like what it's like for you to write a song now?
Sure, yeah. To be honest, it's different every time for me. Sometimes I sit down and a song just kind of comes out of me, which that always feels kind of strange. It's like I couldn't even tell someone really where it's coming from. But other times it's a little more work, or there's, I start with a concept and then just kind of explore it. So it really depends.
Sure.
And then sometimes I'll have a song where I'll write a verse and I can't come up with anything else. And I've had those sit around for months, sometimes years, before I finish them. So
Right on. Side note for the viewers, I know you through the Woods and Guys. We met at Mojo. And they're now your backing band. How's that going? What's it like to play with a band versus playing alone?
yeah, that has been a really fun experience for me. So up until this year, I really hadn't played out much. I probably averaged like one show every year or two, just a coffee shop gig here and there. And so this past year, when I wanted to start playing out more, I just happened to meet the Woods and Guys at Mojo Coffee in Northeast Minneapolis. And we got to talking and set up a jam. And I'd never played with anyone outside of like my family. And so I was super nervous, but they just made it really easy. They're just a really nice group of people, and they're all so talented. So they can just jump right in and start playing something that sounds good. So it's been a blast. It's really fun to be on stage with them.
Yeah. Do you feel like your songs have adapted or changed with them, or is it pretty like how you envisioned it?
Definitely changed them a little bit, which has been really fun. I think they contribute a lot in terms of just the artistry of a song. Yeah. There's one of my favorite songs that we've been playing together is called Don't Tell Mama. And the chorus is about sledding. And it's like a fond childhood memory I have. And Brody, the drummer, changes the beat up. And I don't know, it's hard to explain if you're not listening to it, but that's one song that I just feel like playing with the band really makes the song, you know? It adds a lot to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Okay, so the question that I'm going to ask every guest is, how do you define success? How do you?
I think that's such a beautiful question. For me, it's evolved a lot over the years. And I think most recently, I've experienced kind of a shift in that just in the last year, kind of taking a step back from some of the things I thought were quote unquote successful. I was in grad school for about 3 years working on a PhD.
Oh my gosh.
And I just found myself so overwhelmingly stressed almost all the time. And a lot of that was just pressure I was putting on myself, but it was kind of rooted in this idea of success that I think came from, external sources. This idea that you have to have some sort of like star achievement to be a successful person. And so I recently decided to take a leave of absence from grad school to just kind of take a step back and rethink like what I think success is. And I went to this workshop for educators, and someone posed this question to us that like really hit home, and it was, how would your instruction change if your goal was for your students to feel loved that day? And I loved that idea for classroom instruction, but I started thinking about that as like, what if that was my goal for just life and career and all of it, like was just for the people around me to feel loved. And not saying that I'm perfect at that. I can get angry sometimes. I'm a human being, so I make mistakes. But I find when I'm operating with that, like at my core as my sort of center goal, I just find that I'm happier, and I find myself doing things that I enjoy. And so I think now that's my idea of success, is just putting a little love out in the world.
I love that. What did you, like, what's your undergrad and what are you studying now?
Yeah, my undergrad was in biology, so music is...
That's cool. I love the science math people who also love music. I think that's so cool. And it's all connected, I
agree. Yeah. I think, I could talk about that for hours. Music is so mathematical, but it's also so soulful, I think, often. And so I think that, math, science, and music creativity pair really well together.
Yeah.
And I find, too, that, like, science, you're supposed to sort of be objective and kind of remove feelings from it. But I think when passion and sort of love and values are driving what science you do, I think it's better for it. I think they go really well together. But I think traditional Western thought is sort of thinks of like creative, feely stuff as separate from that sort of logical science stuff.
Definitely. So what is your PhD going to be in?
I'm glad you said going to be in, because I am taking a leave of absence, but I really want to go back. I am studying conservation science, which sort of ecology applied, to conservation issues, basically. So.
Have you worked in that field since graduating with your undergrad?
A little bit, yeah. My focus is on prairie butterflies.
Oh my God, cute.
Thank you.
I love that for you.
Yeah, it's a joy. Sometimes that was one of the hard things about the leave of absence is, in the summers when I'm in the field counting butterflies and flowers, I'm like, this is a dream. Why would I do anything else? So yeah, it's definitely something that I want to keep doing, but just kind of figuring out how I want it to be in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about going to like an educator's, some kind of conference. Do you plan to, or like, are you thinking about teaching?
Yeah. When I started the PhD program, my goal was to eventually teach at the college level.
Cool.
And then I really like that level because you're doing the instruction and the teaching, which is one of my biggest passions, but then you also get to do the research. And so I kind of like the idea of having a role that I could do both.
Yeah, definitely. Love that. I saw you posted something about writing a new song for every set as a New Year's resolution. Have you done that?
So I started, and I've had a new song that I was going to play for every set.
Okay.
But I'm finding it's a lot of pressure because debuting a new song is a whole thing, right?
Yes.
And what I find is that when I go to a show knowing I'm going to debut the song, that's all I think about the whole set is like, oh my God, are they going to like it? Are they going to hate it?
Yeah.
Is it going to be the low point of the show? So I haven't. So I decided to kind of take the pressure off that. And I'm trying to figure out another goal I can set for myself this year in terms of sharing new music regularly.
Yeah. Cool. I love that. How often are you writing? Like, do you think that goal that you set for yourself was like so you write more? Or do you feel like you do that a lot anyways?
It was to do two things, to push myself to write more, but also I have several songs right now that I wrote and I don't know, they're in what I call the vault, which is like the place I keep my songs that I don't share with people.
We all have a vault.
And what I find is when I push myself to share those, sometimes people really like them and they're like the song that really resonates with others. Yeah. And so I want to push myself to start sharing those more as well.
Cool.
So that was my goal with that, with that New Year's resolution. But like I said, I found it was maybe creating too much pressure at the shows. So
yeah, no, that makes sense, definitely. You have, is it 2 songs that are ghost stories, or is it 3 that you regularly perform?
Right now I have 3. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? What's the, you just like a good ghost story?
I love a good ghost story. I don't know. They all have different stories behind them. And so I don't know. I mean, the common thread is that they're all ghost stories, but I came upon them sort of in very different scenarios. And I can talk more about each one if you want.
Yeah,
but
I can dig in.
So Ballad of Lake Superior is a very spooky one, I think. It's a pretty dark song. But that story came to me when I was living on Lake Superior, and my friend was telling me about shipwrecks that would happen, back in the day when Ashland was still this port.
Yep.
And I don't even know if this is true. I never fact-checked it, but what he told me was that the water in Lake Superior is so cold that when ships would wreck, the bodies would never sink or float. They'd just sort of be suspended in this certain depth of the lake, which sounds very scary and spooky. But it kind of introduced me to this idea of water sort of holding stories after people are gone.
Yeah.
And so that's where Ballad of Lake Superior came from. It's a love story that ends in death, which is very sad and tragic. But yeah, it's about the water sort of holding the story of these two lovers, and just holding it through the passage of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, thank you. And then Pushing Up Daisies is one that I couldn't tell you where that came from.
We love Pushing Up Daisies. Love that one.
Thank you. It's a really fun one to play with the band, for sure. But yeah, that one I just wrote it, and I remember I didn't really like the music to it when I first wrote it, so I never played it out. And I ended up finding the lyrics in my notes years later.
Wow.
Very recently, actually, and just kind of redoing the music because I couldn't remember how it went before. And so the version you hear now is like very different from the original version. But
wow, that's cool. I think specifically like this past week when I saw you at Astor, I don't know if it was the sound or what it was, because I've seen you a few times, but I was so like captured by your lyrics. Do you have plans to release music soon, or where are you at with that?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know all the words of every song.
That's very
also,
kind. Thank you.
Someday I will cover, is it Nice Suit?
Yeah.
That's my favorite song of yours. Oh my God. I sing it like weeks after I've heard you sing it. It's still in my head. I love that one.
Thank you. Oh, that's a fun one to sing. And when I wrote it, it was definitely like a shift in style for me.
Yeah.
Most of my songs are a little more like folky Americana sounding, and that one's definitely like spicy and jazzy. And yeah, different sound for me, but I like singing it. So I appreciate hearing that you enjoy it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a lot of my originals recorded solo, so just me and my guitar or piano. Those are available on my Bandcamp, which is just a website. It's a platform you can share your music. Free to stream. You can also pay what you can to download the songs. But it's just emmywoods.bandcamp.com.
Cool.
And then I'm hoping in the coming months to both re-record the songs I've already released with the band, as well as record some new material.
Cool.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of new material, do you want to play a new tune?
Sure. So this is a song that I haven't recorded or performed.
Yay.
Let me grab my guitar here.
First listen right now.
It's a first listen. Who knows what'll happen to this song? You might never be able to hear it again, except for on this podcast. Yeah, so this song is, it's about being drawn to someone who's not very good for you. And I wrote it about a relationship where it was like a very on-again, off-again situation. That for some reason I couldn't just let go. It's called Eye to the Barrel. Should know that you'd be
Shut up. Oh my God, I loved that.
Thank you
I
so
loved
much.
that.
Thank
Oh, I
you.
resonate. Do you, like, is it going to be on the next set, or you're not sure what you're going to do with it yet?
I don't know yet. I haven't decided.
Oh my God. I would love to hear it again and again and again. Do you have any major influences? Like that for me was kind of giving Jewel. Do you ever listen to Jewel?
I do, yeah.
I love her. Grew up on her.
So did I. I'm going to age myself just a little here, but one of my first albums was Pieces of You on cassette tape.
Yeah, on cassette tape?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I wish I still had it, but,
Oh my gosh.
you know.
Any other major influences?
Yeah, so Ani DeFranco is always just like a mainstay on my playlists. Started listening to her at a really young age, junior high, and just she stayed with me. So
Love that.
yeah, I listened to a lot of Gillian Welch, Emmylou Harris.
Yeah, for sure. I hear that in you big time.
Thank you. Yeah. Actually, funny story. The other day, an account named Emmylou Harris liked some of my posts on Instagram, and I had this moment where I was like, "Holy shit!" And of course, it was just a fan page.
Dang
I know. For like this brief moment, I was like, my heart stopped, and then I was like, "This can't be real."
Oh my gosh. As far as performance goes, like, is there any way that you prep for a performance?
That's another thing that's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
Lately, I just try to drink lots of water and get a good night's sleep before.
Yep.
Yeah. I usually try to run through my set once, like a few hours before, just so they're all fresh. And that's more just to help me calm my anxiety.
Yeah.
Because I can sort of tell myself, like, okay, you're a little nervous for the show, but you just ran the songs. They're all still in your memory. And
for sure.
Because that's a big fear of mine, is forgetting my songs while I'm on stage. So.
Yeah. You and me both. Yeah, big time. I actually, for a lot of the stuff that I do now, which is still like covers, I often have words in front of me, just not even because I need them, but just as a comfort, which is it's distracting and it shouldn't be there, but I have the same fear for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if it's ever happened to you before, but it's definitely happened to me. So
Yeah, it has. But I think I've gotten good at pretending like nothing happened, I think that's a big part of performance, actually, is like being able to screw up and not let anybody in the crowd know.
I agree, yeah. Or just, I think even when the crowd notices, they're usually pretty nice about it. Like,
yeah, they all want you to do well, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and it's such a human thing, too, to be scared on stage.
Yeah.
I think it's like the number one reported greatest fear is public speaking. So it makes sense that when you're up there, you get nervous and forget stuff sometimes.
I definitely, this is so weird because I think now I'm at a point where I'm very comfortable on stage, and I almost feel like I have this like alter ego moment, like I'm a different person. And so singing and even talking to a crowd on stage that I'm about to sing for is pretty easy for me. But actually public speaking, like I've taken public speaking classes, and I would honestly like rather just like go sit in a corner in a ball and cry. I hate talking in front of people, and I don't know how, or like I don't know why I feel so differently about those things. Maybe I feel more pressure, or like maybe I feel more like I've got it handled with the singing thing, you know what I mean? Like maybe I feel just like I'm better at that than talking, but God, it's like two different worlds for me.
I agree. When I'm playing, that's something I've really had to work on, is like my in-between songs banter. I feel like it's always kind of awkward.
I don't know what to say either. What are we supposed to talk about? Is it a comedy? Like, are we doing bits?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people, I think, probably have the take of like, it's not our job to like be funny or whatever in between songs necessarily. But it is nice to like have something to say so that it flows better.
Yeah, I
kind of
agree.
hate the awkward silence in between.
Yeah. Something that really helped me is the realization that a lot of people who have good in-between song banter rehearse that like they
Yeah.
do their songs. And I didn't know that. I just thought everyone was being really candid.
Just candid, like,
But
ain't no problem.
no. I found this out because I was listening to John Craiggie's live album. Do you know John Craigie?
I don't.
He's an amazing folk singer-songwriter. Love his stuff. But he has amazing banter in between songs. And so I was listening to his live album, just like cracking up at all of his funny jokes. And then I went to see him live, and a bunch of the jokes that he'd made on the album were in his live performance. And I was like, oh, it's the same every time. That's why he does such an amazing job. It's not exactly the same. He changes it up a bit, but I didn't know you could do that. So.
Yeah, I've definitely seen artists do that, or like it's more obvious that it's like a rehearsed story that they tell, or something along the lines of that. But I don't know. I don't know like what even seems relevant in the middle of a set. You know what I mean? Besides maybe a joke. I don't know. Yeah. Have you thought about that? Like, are you considering rehearsing banter in between songs?
Yeah. I've definitely tried, or at least coming up with like condensed versions of some of the stories behind my songs.
Yeah,
and
that's such a, yeah, you're right. That's a good place to go, is like talking about where the songs come from.
Yeah. But I agree, especially a lot of my songs are kind of sad. And so I think having that sort of comic relief between songs would be nice.
That makes sense.
Don't want to make everyone too sad.
Do you have a favorite performance that you've ever done?
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to look back, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I will always recall very fondly a talent show I played with my big brother Dan in high school.
Aww, I love that.
And I'd never sung a solo before in front of an audience, so it was the first time. And we did Cake's version of I Will Survive.
Oh my gosh.
And he's really good. He's a bass player, or he was a bass player before he was a guitar player. And so he did this amazing, like, I don't know, he just did a really cool version of like the guitar / bass part of that song. And then I sang, and I just remember that, like, I don't know, it was just, we had such a fun time. And it was sort of the beginning of my being more of, you know, a performer, I guess. Yeah.
That's awesome. How old were you?
I was in 9th grade, so 15.
I love a good origin story.
15.
That's awesome.
It's still my go-to karaoke song.
Yes. Do you have a favorite show that you've ever been to, like as a viewer, as a listener?
Ooh. When I first moved out to Washington State at the tender age of 19, I went to see Tracy Chapman.
Oh my God.
Was hands down the best show I've ever been to. She's incredible. Yeah.
That would be such a cool show to see. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see her again someday. She's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, before we say goodbye, do you want to plug any upcoming shows?
Yeah, I have a few shows coming up. So February 19th, I will be playing a show at Insight Brewing. My set is from 5 to 6, but there'll be music from 4 to 7. My friends Kaylee Kitzman and Sammy Jean Cohen will be playing as well. So I think it should be a good Sunday early evening event. February 25th, I'll be playing with Emerson Island, another great local act, and that'll be at Pillar Forum Cafe. And that show will be with the band. So it's going to be Emmy Woods and the Red Pine Ramblers, as well as our show at Sociable Cider Works on February 28th. And that's going to be a showcase. So I'll be playing with Sammy Jean Cohen and her band, The Moonshiners, again, too.
I love when you guys are on the same bill, too. It fits well.
Yeah, we're different enough that it's like a different vibe, but similar enough that I think people who appreciate the one, appreciate the other. And she's just a wonderful human.
Mm-hmm. She seems very, very sweet.
Yeah, she's got a great heart. So always fun to share the stage with her.
Absolutely. Any others?
I mean, there's more in March, but those are the February shows.
Okay, cool. Well, the viewers can find that information on your Instagram and maybe Facebook.
Yeah, I actually don't have a Facebook right now. Someday
Okay.
maybe I'll get back on there.
Okay, what's your handle on Instagram?
But my handle on Instagram is Emmy Woods _music.
Cool. And do you want to plug that Bandcamp link one more time?
Yeah, and then my Bandcamp is emmywoods.bandcamp.com.
Cool. Sweet. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Abby. This was a blast.